Single mom's unexpected text to billionaire reveals a surprising jet journey to reunite one son. Maria sat on her worn-out couch, the flickering TV barely registering in her exhausted mind. In the dim light, her phone screen illuminated her face, revealing the bags under her eyes. Bills piled high on the table, reminders of the life she grappled to sustain as a single mother in Los Angeles. A night shift at the diner loomed ahead, pressuring her to push through another endless cycle of exhaustion. Somewhere amid the chaos, her 10-year-old son Ethan, sleeping in his room filled with makeshift inventions, was the only light in her life. His dreams of becoming a scientist ignited a flicker of hope within her, but how could she nurture that brilliance when her own dreams had been extinguished by struggle? Scrolling through her contacts in a moment of weakness, her thumb paused over Jason's name, a face from her past, a classmate who had soared into the upper echelons of success as a billionaire tech entrepreneur. The gulf between their lives felt maddeningly vast. What could she possibly say? The self-doubt flooded back, a familiar pang in her chest. But she typed anyway. Her heart raced. Was she really seeking help? Or was this desperation masquerading as a last-ditch effort to reclaim a part of herself? To her astonishment, Jason replied almost immediately, his words laced with nostalgia, stirring a mixture of old familiarity and raw vulnerability. They reminisced about their shared high school days, a temporary escape from her current reality. When he offered to assist Ethan in attending a prestigious science fair, her heart leaped. Yet within that exhilaration, anxiety coursed through her. Could she really accept help from someone who wouldn't understand her struggles? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days raced toward the science fair, joy started to seep in, yet it was swiftly overshadowed by pervasive tension. Sitting in Jason's private jet, she felt ill at ease, battling the constant reminders of her place on the fringes of this elite gathering. Her mind filled with doubts. Would they scoff at Ethan's humble projects? The remnants of her high school insecurities clouded her thoughts. She squeezed her hands into fists, suppressing the urge to voice her fears to Jason. Amidst the vibrant chatter of privileged circles, ethereal conversations about tech innovations and groundbreaking research enveloped them. Maria felt the anxiety constricting her throat, the harsh break of reality thudded in her chest. No one knew about the late-night shifts or the weight of expectations she bore alone. Somehow, she had to protect Ethan from this world of judgment, from prejudice that could belittle his genius. The moment they interacted with a judge at the fair who sneered at Ethan's presentation caused her heart to lurch. What if this was the tightrope of her life? Could they navigate its fragile balance, or would they be pulled down by the weight of unfairness? As her son stood proudly by her side, Maria's internal storm intensified. Would she risk it all to confront the glaring inequalities, to stand up for the boy who meant everything to her? Facing the reality of their disparate worlds, the jet engines roared to life, echoing the chaotic storm brewing inside as she nodded briefly at Jason, her eyes locked on the road ahead. Would they forge a path through the judgment, or allow themselves to be crushed under the weight of doubt and societal expectations? The journey had just begun, but the stakes were rising dangerously high. The jet hummed as it soared through the sky, an emblem of wealth and privilege that Maria felt unworthy to inhabit. With Jason focused on the horizon, she turned her attention to Ethan, who was engrossed in a notebook filled with scribbles and sketches. A sense of pride surged through her. Here was her son, the embodiment of her hope, unyielding in the face of overwhelming odds. But as the jet sliced through the clouds, so too did her doubts carve deeper into her thoughts. What if she failed him? The thought echoed relentlessly, tethering her mind to the reality of their situation. In Ethan's innocent ambitions, she saw a reflection of her own suspended dreams, a once bright future dimmed by the unforgiving weight of life's challenges. She caught glimpses of him glancing out the window at the landscape below, oblivious to the wars raging in her heart. She wanted to protect him from judgment, but how could she shield him from a world that demanded excellence and refinement she had never been afforded? Suddenly, the jet began its descent, mirroring the tightening of her chest. They were arriving, and with it, she felt an urgency to prepare Ethan for what lay ahead. Was she equipped to guide him? The looming science fair felt not just like a platform for him to shine, but a stage for her insecurities to unravel. As they disembarked, Maria felt dwarfed by the sleek surroundings of the venue. It was bustling with throngs of students and parents, all emanating an air of confidence and affluence. Each meticulously crafted project around them screamed of resources and training she couldn't provide. The cacophony of excited chatter morphed into a deafening reminder of her own inadequacies. "Mom, look at that!" Ethan exclaimed, pointing towards a booth featuring a glimmering mechanical structure. His eyes sparkled with curiosity, but Maria's heart sank. His simple project, a solar-powered robot made from recycled materials, felt pitifully outclassed. She took a deep breath, reminded of the resilience she had nurtured in him. "Ethan, remember, it's not about how fancy it looks but the creativity behind it," she said, hoping to instill confidence despite her own gnawing doubts. With a soft smile, Ethan replied, "Right. And we worked hard on it." But deep down, she feared he could feel her anxiety. As they maneuvered through the throng, she determined to quell her worries, to step into this world with him not as a bystander, but as his advocate. When they reached their designated space, Maria noticed other parents, polished professionals discussing strategy and outcomes, their laughter mingling with the sound of tinkering machinery. Each interaction felt insurmountable. What did she have to offer in this arena of established brilliance? Would they see her as a mere footnote to her son's potential? The disheartening thoughts swirled until the relentless beep of her phone snapped her back. It was a message from Jason, here to support you and Ethan, no matter what. "You're doing great." His words ignited a flicker of defiance within her. Could she leverage this moment not just for Ethan, but for her own revival? Could she let go of the weight of her past failures? As the hour approached for Ethan to present, she positioned herself strategically beside him, not solely as a buffer against judgment but as his anchor of belief. Standing tall, she whispered, "You got this. Let your passion shine through, they'll see the brilliance." The moment arrived when Ethan took the stage, and Maria watched, heart racing, caught between parental pride and inner turmoil. Each second felt like an eternity as he articulated his project, his face glowing with earnestness. This was not just about competition, it was their shared dream materializing into reality, but as cheers erupted, Maria felt a familiar tremor of uncertainty creeping back. As she met the gaze of a judge who scrutinized them with barely concealed disdain, she made a choice. Maybe it was time to confront those societal judgments, to defend her son not just as an advocate, but as the formidable mother she had become. The stakes had shifted dramatically. Would she find the strength to challenge the implicit biases surrounding them, or would she retreat back into the shadows of her self-imposed limitations? Insistent growth or debilitating doubt, the battle for their futures was beginning. Maria took a step forward, ready to speak her truth. Would her voice ripple through this sophisticated sea of expectations, or would it drown in silence? The moment was hers to seize. Maria steadied her breathing as Ethan finished his presentation, the bright lights of the stage blurring into a constellation of uncertainty and hope. The applause filled the air, but conflicting emotions swirled within her. The lingering glances from the judge ignited an angry impulse to defend their project, to assert their place in this arena of affluence. As the audience's applause began to dwindle, Maria felt a tightening in her chest and a rush of adrenaline take over. This was her moment, not just for Ethan but for herself. The specters of her past failures loomed, but she realized she could transform that vulnerability into strength. What had she spent her life doing if not fighting through obstacles? Now was the time to embrace that fierceness and become a formidable presence in this world. "Ethan," she murmured, turning to her son, "remember, it's about what you've learned and the creativity that drives you, not the accolades." Yep. I know, he said, his enthusiasm still bright, momentarily unaware of the mental war brewing inside her. Good. She could almost taste the determination, but she had to push further. Before the judge vanished to recount scores and impress audiences, she stepped forward, breaking through the crowd as if parting a sea of well-dressed onlookers. The striking contrast of her casual attire made her self-doubt surge again, but she buried it. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice echoing above the murmurs of the throng. The judge paused, turning a disinterested gaze toward her. For a fleeting moment, Maria hesitated, wondering if this confrontation would amplify her feelings of inadequacy or empower her fears. I just wanted to clarify something about our project," she said, her heart racing as she established eye contact. The judge's expression remained stoic, a mask that revealed nothing. "Your project demonstrates creativity but lacks polish and resources," he stated bluntly, his tone as sharp as the tailored suit he wore. The sting cut deep, but Maria noticed the flicker of pride in Ethan's eyes, a reminder of why she couldn't back down. "Polish and resources?" she asked, grounding her voice. "Our project uniquely illustrates the importance of sustainability and creativity using discarded materials, a life lesson in ingenuity." She felt the strength of her words ripple through her. "We've worked hard. We're not just competing, we're redefining what it means to innovate regardless of privilege." "Innovating is worthwhile," he replied, eyebrows slightly raised, "but this competition is about excellence." His dismissive posture almost crushed her spirit, but something stirred within her. What if this was an opportunity to enlighten him about the grit behind their project? Wasn't character essential to excellence? "Excellence," she countered, sharp with resolve, "is often born out of struggle. My son has learned that creativity doesn't come from ease, but from facing challenges head-on. It takes courage to transform discarded materials into something meaningful, and that's valuable in any context." The judge regarded her with narrowed eyes, an unreadable expression. At that moment, she questioned the wisdom of her confrontation, but she pressed on anyway, buoyed by the vision of Ethan's hopeful future. "What you see as inadequate is actually a testament to adaptability and perseverance. It can inspire others because every story needs a vantage point that challenges the expectation." Silence fleetingly enveloped them as the judge absorbed her words, his walls momentarily cracking under the weight of her conviction. Maria felt a flicker of possibility ignite in the room. She wasn't just Ethan's advocate, she was crafting her own narrative. In that moment of truth, she discovered something profound within her. Her voice could command more than mere existence, it could make waves. Could this realization shift their trajectory not just in this competition, but in their lives? As the judge turned to offer a brief acknowledgement, Maria took a breath, realizing that vulnerability and strength were seamlessly intertwined. The audience buzzed around her, a whirlwind of thoughts and judgments, but she clung to newfound resolve. She would advocate not just for Ethan, but also for herself. However, her exhilaration was interrupted as a familiar face appeared in the background. Jason's expression of pride mingled with concern. Was he here to support them, or did he sense the gravity of her unfolding situation? The stakes hadn't just risen for Ethan's project, they now felt intertwined with her own struggles. Maria glanced back at Ethan, his energy unquenchable. She had a decision to make: should she engage Jason and risk losing focus, or maintain her momentum in this pivotal moment where she felt growth was within grasp? The outcome hung precariously in the balance, and uncertainty flooded her thoughts like a tide. Would she confront Jason about their relationship, or let him remain an ally in this journey? The call for the next round of judges echoed, pulling her deeper into the inner conflict. With her heart pounding, Maria chose her path, ready to either forge ahead with clarity in her stance or address the complexities of her life. The winds of change were upon her. What would her choice be? The air crackled with tension as Maria weighed her choices, caught between the anticipation of the next round of judgments and the magnetic pull of Jason's gaze. She had fought so hard to break free from the shadow of her past, only to feel the weight of unfinished business tugging at her heart. Should I let him in? The question spiraled in her mind, colliding with the urgency of the moment. No, this wasn't about Jason. This was about Ethan and the world they were carving out for themselves. But the emotional pull was undeniable. Years of complicated history nestled against the thrill of newfound empowerment. Taking a deep breath, Maria allowed herself one last look at Ethan. His determined spirit shone brightly. He had taken her words to heart, and she could see his creativity flourishing. This wasn't merely a competition for his success, it was a fight for their shared narrative, devoid of residual baggage that Jason embodied. With quiet resolve, Maria turned her back to Jason, focusing instead on the judges who had gathered for the next round. "I can do this," she affirmed silently, feeling her spine straighten as she approached the podium again. The prospect of sharing their story fueled her confidence, transforming doubts into palpable energy. "Thank you for this opportunity to clarify our project further," she projected, her voice steady as she caught the attention of the judges. "We don't seek accolades, but rather a chance to create dialogue around the importance of resourcefulness in today's world." The judges exchanged glances, evidently intrigued. Maria seized the moment, recalling her childhood dreams of making an impact, however small, tracing her feelings back to days spent imagining the ways she could affect change. This wasn't just about Ethan's success, it was about reigniting that spark she had buried beneath layers of self-doubt. "Every discarded material we used in our project represents a choice to innovate in the face of adversity, to transform potential waste into something valuable." Each word thrust through the air like a lance, punctuating the narrative she had finally decided to embrace. Just as life presents us with obstacles, we can choose how to reshape them into opportunities. A clarity settled in her mind. It wasn't just about the project, it was about empowering herself, about facing her fears head-on. Every smile, every nod from the audience bolstered her courage, affirming that she deserved this moment as much as anyone else. As she completed her presentation, she caught a glimpse of Jason out of the corner of her eye. His expression flickered between admiration and something deeper, possibly regret. Yet, in that moment, all Maria could feel was a burgeoning sense of liberation. She was no longer just a spectator in her life, she was the architect. As applause erupted around her, it wasn't just for Ethan's shining creativity, it was a celebration of their joint resilience, a recognition of the journey she had fought to claim. Each clap resonated like a beat of newfound strength, a testament to the evolution of their story, but as the excitement coursed through her, a nagging thought festered in the back of her mind. Was the confrontation with Jason truly over? Would they continue to exist in the same space without addressing the unresolved tension between them? The uncertainty lingered, refusing to fade like the echoes of the applause that still filled the room. Maria felt the ground shift beneath her as the judges prepared for deliberation. Suddenly, the path ahead seemed less certain. Ignoring Jason wouldn't silence the turmoil brewing inside her. They would inevitably cross paths again, and their unresolved history loomed like a storm cloud ready to unleash. She looked back at him briefly, and their eyes locked, a silent understanding passed between them. Questions lingered in the air, wrapped in the unspoken dialogue of their shared past. Would she confront that history once and for all, or let the current triumph define her future? Resolute, Maria decided that she must face the next challenge head-on, her own fears. The moment had arrived for clarity, and she would not let it slip away. How this moment would unfold remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: she had broken free from the constraints of her past, and now it was time to carve a new path forward. As she stepped off the stage, adrenaline surged through her veins once more. With every heartbeat echoing her resolve, she knew the stakes had shifted. Would she confront Jason in the hours to come? The answer awaited her, a choice that could lead her further into the light or plunge her back into confusion. The tension in the room faded as Maria stepped off the stage, but her heart still thumped loudly with adrenaline and uncertainty. The rhythm of her pulse reminded her of the intensity of her recent confrontation, not only with the judges but with her own narrative. She had taken a significant step towards asserting her identity, yet the unresolved conflict with Jason loomed overhead like a storm cloud. With each step, Maria pondered her next move. She couldn't ignore the gravity of what Jason represented. He was the relentless echo of past choices, an emblem of a journey that had once trapped her in self-doubt. Every interaction with him had the potential to either fuel her growth or drag her back into shadows she had fought so hard to escape. Maria. Ethan's voice broke through her thoughts, his excitement infectious. Did you see their faces? They were totally into our project. He grinned, the innocence of his enthusiasm a stark contrast to the complicated emotions swirling within her. Yes. You were incredible, she replied, forcing a genuine smile, grateful he was radiating joy in this moment. His success was crucial, a reminder that she had made the right choices here, prioritizing creativity, resourcefulness, and their shared vision. Yet, as she watched him celebrate, a gnawing anxiety burrowed beneath her skin. Ethan, could you give me a moment? I need to think about something. Sure, go ahead. He drifted away, still basking in his triumph. Maria sought sanctuary in a quiet corner of the space, a pocket of solitude where the echoes of applause faded into background noise. Standing still, she breathed deeply, trying to arrange her thoughts. She held the weight of her choices tightly, contemplating whether her growth existed in the absence of confrontation with Jason or through the act of addressing it directly. Should she initiate a discussion that might spark confusion, or should she leave the past where it belonged? As she evaluated the stakes, her gaze drifted to Jason, who stood conversing in the periphery with others. He exuded an air of confidence that stung. Was this the same man she had once relied on? The same man who could fill her world with warmth only to withdraw and leave her freezing? No. This moment wasn't for him, it was for her. Her thoughts crystallized. She was not merely confronting Jason, she was confronting the very aspects of herself that had cowered in his presence. The woman who had been defined by uncertainty was ready to emerge as someone unafraid to claim her voice. Emboldened, Maria approached Jason. Each step felt laden with purpose. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes before they settled into something that resembled apprehension. Can we talk? The words fell from her lips, tinged with newfound authority. Sure, he replied, yet his tone, which might have once promised familiarity, now held a tinge of wariness. What did he see in her? The same girl from years ago? Or the fierce woman who understood her worth? The air between them crackled as they found a quieter area, a small alcove away from prying eyes. I wanted to thank you for what you said earlier, she started, drawing in a steadying breath. But more importantly, I need to understand where we stand. Can we redefine our story? The question hung in the air, mingling with the tension. Jason hesitated, his expression becoming a canvas of conflict. Maria, but before he could finish, the mood shifted. Decisions. They needed to be made, and she had laid the groundwork. Would this conversation anchor her in the past, or could it propel her into the future she envisioned? She yearned for clarity as uncertainty threatened to overtake her. Would he embrace this dialogue, or would it be yet another moment swallowed by the chaos of their history? As her resolve anchored her, Maria felt the weight of self-discovery reignite within her, awaiting the answers that loomed just ahead. Let us figure this out, she proposed, feeling the gravity of her renewed determination. But as the words settled between them, she couldn't shake the lingering doubt. Would this be a breakthrough, or simply another detour in the complex story they shared? Jason stammered, searching for words that seemed lost in the electric atmosphere surrounding them. Her heart raced, driven by the realization that this moment held more weight than both of them had anticipated. As silence filled the space, she leaned into her own determination, trying to defy the long chain of history that kept threatening to bind them. You're surprised, she stated, her voice steady yet candid. I don't want to dwell in confusion or bitterness anymore. It's exhausting. Let us set a new direction. Jason's brows furrowed slightly. You really want to redefine things? Just like that? Why not? We can either remain shackled by our past or embrace the possibility of something different. Her resolved gaze challenged him to match her clarity. However, doubt flickered in the depths of his eyes. She had often succumbed to Jason's shadows. Now, it was time he stepped into the light with her. "I'm not sure it's that simple, Maria," he murmured, glancing away, wrestling with some inner turmoil. "Life isn't simple, Jason. You taught me that." She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. She searched his expression, looking for the flicker of recognition, some sign that he understood the journey she had embarked upon. "But I'm not that girl anymore. I won't let old narratives dictate who I am or who I could be." A flicker of appreciation mingled with his apprehension, and Maria sensed the conflict raging inside him. It made her vulnerable but also invigorated her. This was her moment to pull away the layers of their shared past and expose the raw potential of their future. "What do you want from me, then?" he finally asked, a hint of desperation in his voice. "I want to understand, but I feel like I'm on unstable ground here. I don't want to hurt you again." A part of her longed to reassure him, to tell him everything would be all right, but could they truly overcome the past? Could they navigate the quagmire of miscommunication and regrets they had both buried deep? "I want honesty, no excuses. We either confront this connection or we let it go. I can't carry the weight of unresolved emotions any longer. I'm tired of letting fear dictate my choices." Maria's pulse quickened as she spoke, aware that every word was a piece of her nestled in the landscape of their shared narrative. They had an opportunity here, an opportunity to confront the very essence of their relationship and their individual identities. Jason appeared pensive, glancing down at the floor as if it held the answers. He looked up suddenly, resolve etched on his features. "What if we decide to confront not just each other, but ourselves? I don't want to just move forward, I want to learn and grow from what happened." She felt a rush of unexpected gratitude at his willingness to engage. Perhaps this conversation could serve as a beacon of hope for them both. "It starts with the truth, Jason. What did we mean to each other in the past, and how can we honor that without repeating our mistakes?" As they stood locked in this emotional dance, an unexpected rush coursed through Maria. She was finally claiming her agency. No longer a victim of circumstance, she was actively choosing her narrative. With a tentative acceptance forming between them, the air filled with a hesitant optimism. Could they truly embark on this journey of reckoning and renewal? And just as the weight of that shared understanding began to settle, Maria's phone buzzed violently in her pocket, erupting like an unexpected storm. The sudden distraction shattered their focus. Who was reaching out now, and would this divert or propel them further into their newfound commitment? As she fished her phone from her pocket, dread washed over her. Whatever awaited her on the screen could either solidify this moment or unleash chaos once more. Could she draw strength from this unexpected turn? Or would it pull her back into old patterns, steering her off course yet again? Maria stared at her phone, the screen illuminating her face with a stark brightness that juxtaposed the dim emotional landscape surrounding her and Jason. The sender's name sent a gut punch of anxiety through her. It was an old acquaintance, Brad, from her previous job. His message, though concise, bore an unusual urgency. "We need to talk. Can you meet me tomorrow?" Her fingers hovered over the touchscreen, paralyzed by an avalanche of emotions. Why now? She had taken the leap to redefine her life, and now it felt as though her past was clawing at her heels, wanting to pull her back. "Who is it?" Jason's voice broke through her mental fog. "It's someone from work," she replied, keeping her tone as neutral as possible despite the rising tide of confusion within. "Something serious?" he pressed, the shadow of concern crossing his features. "Not that I know of." The response felt disingenuous, but she couldn't unveil the anxiety of uncertainty she was feeling. The message hung heavy between them, almost overshadowing the moment they'd just begun to cherish. Jason leaned closer, a protective instinct sparking in his demeanor. "You shouldn't have to face anything alone. If this person is causing you stress, let us confront it together. We need to keep moving forward." His support revved her determination, contradicting the unease nudging its way into her chest. Yet with every second that passed, Maria felt the looming weight of choices hers and those made by others threatening her newfound clarity. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, Jason. Not just right now, but in my life. Whatever this is, I need to handle it by myself. The firmness in her voice surprised even her, but the plan she had was beginning to weave itself into a patchwork of different realities. She needed to confront Brad, yes, but also the implications of their history. Are you sure? Jason's brow furrowed as he studied her. It's good to lean into the support systems. I don't want you feeling pressured to take anything on alone if it's unnecessary. I know, she said, softening slightly, but I need to test what I've learned. I've been defined by other people's expectations for too long. With or without you, I want to be honest with myself no matter what that looks like. Jason's expression shifted as he took a step back, not in retreat but in an acknowledgement of her autonomy. Then maybe we both need that. A chance to figure out what's best for us independently. His words hung in the air, a duality of support and independence lacing their conversation with unspoken tension. Maria knew that this burgeoning sense of self-reliance could ultimately lead her down a path of reckoning. Was she ready for it? Could she face the unexpected without letting it unravel the tapestry she had begun to thread anew? I guess we'll find out, she finally replied, meeting his gaze steadily. Even if it means facing Brad, or whatever else life throws at me. The air crackled as they both seemed to recognize the supremacy of individual growth. Driven by an unrelenting urgency, the call to seize the moment and carve clear paths, they began to contemplate their next steps, him, embracing the essence of his own journey, and her, preparing to confront the specters of her past. As they stood on the precipice of profound change, Maria's phone buzzed again, this time with a notification. An intense pulse thrummed in her chest as she checked it. This one read, "Flight confirmation for tomorrow at 10 a.m. She turned to Jason, a mix of excitement and apprehension shifting in her stomach. How would this journey reshape everything she had just begun to redefine? And for the first time in a long while, she felt a spark of anticipation ignite within her. The moment of truth approached, but would she seize the flight to her future or let it whisk past her? The sun glinted against the windowpane, offering a gaudy display of light that emphasized the ache in Maria's chest as she stared at her packed suitcase. Tomorrow's early flight loomed large in her mind like an uninvited guest. In this moment of unsettling anticipation, she found herself grappling with the gravity of her decision. Maria moved mechanically through the motions of her evening routine, her thoughts swirling around the potential meeting with Brad. A part of her knew she could easily brush it off, but another voice deep inside insisted she confront this fragment of her life that had shaped her, one that was steeped in ambiguity and regret. She caught her reflection in the glass, her brow furrowed and her eyes distant, as if she were peering into a recursive maze of doubts. How had she let this man, this old job, wield so much power over her mind after everything she had fought to overcome? The might of professional definitions and interpersonal expectations weighed heavily on her psyche. She took a moment to breathe, reminding herself of her goal, to extract lessons from the past without letting them dictate her future. Tomorrow's flight possessed the promise of new beginnings, but the thought of seeing Brad brought up shadows of inadequacy, questions of failure, and memories of feeling trapped. Was she really ready to face these? The fight in her intensified an instinctual urge to wrest control over the narrative of her existence. As she moved to the kitchen, the familiar sounds of Jason navigating their shared space brought a moment of solace. He was busy preparing dinner, and for a second, Maria allowed herself to lean into the comfort of their shared life. The smell of garlic and rosemary wafted through the air, a reminder of the normalcy she had recently embraced. "What are you thinking about?" Jason asked, glancing up from the stovetop, clearly attuned to her distracted energy. "Just the trip tomorrow." "And Brad," she answered, her voice trailing off as a frown knitted on her forehead. "Are you nervous?" Jason's voice was steady, laced with concern. "More like, resolved," she replied, eliciting a curious arch of his brow. resolved to confront him. There was something encouraging in his tone that ignited warmth in her chest. Yes, I need to do this. But it's tricky because it's not just about him. It's about what I've learned. It's about what I want moving forward. As the words left her mouth, she felt a surge of clarity. Jason stepped closer, sensing the shift in her demeanor. Then tackle it that way. Frame the conversation around your insight and growth. It's not just about him, it's about you too. Own that power. Power, she whispered, melding the idea with the momentum she had cultivated in recent months. What if confronting Brad was more than just a reckoning with her past? What if it was a fundamental step in claiming her narrative for herself? Later, as they sat on the couch watching old movies, Maria's mind returned to the flight that awaited her. She considered all the uncalculated moves that had led her there, the decision to pack up and leave a job that had become oppressive, the courage to embrace her desires and convictions, and now, the willingness to face a piece of her past. A realization dawned: she wasn't just going to meet Brad. She was stepping onto a new route in her life, fueled by the clarity she had forged through hard work and perseverance. Overwhelmed with emotion, she took a deep breath and let it out slowly. That emotional gesture solidified her resolve. She was not going to allow fear to hold her back any longer. Jason, sensing the shift, reached for her hand. Whatever happens, I'm with you, holding tight. In that moment, she could see her future expanding beyond the confines of anxious anticipation. In flight, there would be revelations, breakthroughs, and the opportunity to reconcile her past with her present, yet it was the unknown that awaited at the other end of the trip that gnawed at her. Would Brad represent a closure she desperately needed? Or would he stir up new complications she wasn't prepared for? As night fell, Maria's resolve solidified, ready to face whatever came her way. But one last thought lingered in her mind: what if the meeting with Brad unearthed more about herself than she had ever anticipated? With dawn creeping closer, anticipation coursed through her veins, and Maria couldn't shake the feeling that the real journey was about to begin, not just on a plane but within herself. What would she unearth in the encounter, and would bravery truly win out in the face of her uncertainties? The morning sun spilled softly into Maria's bedroom, nudging her awake with gentle rays. A mix of excitement and anxiety fluttered within her, the kind of feeling that had propelled her before big presentations or significant life changes. Today, however, was different. It wasn't merely a step in her career but a decisive turn on the path toward reclaiming her autonomy. As she went through her rituals, showering, dressing, and packing her last essentials, her mind stayed active, meticulously orchestrating the upcoming conversation with Brad in her head. What would her approach be? How could she ensure that the dialogue flowed favorably, steering it away from regret and towards the lessons learned? With each item she placed in her bag, Maria didn't just prepare for a journey, she fortified her spirit. She envisioned walking into that meeting with her head high, embodying the strength of the woman she had become. Once at the airport, she glanced at her reflection in the terminal windows, and for the first time in ages, she felt a flicker of confidence, the kind that surfaced from deep within, reminding her that she deserved this chance to define her narrative. The flight was filled with a tension she both welcomed and feared. She watched the clouds envelop the plane, her pulse quickening with every mile away from home. In these moments of ascent, she wrestled with her thoughts. Was she truly ready to confront her past and forge a future that aligned with her values? The weight of her aspirations pressed heavily on her heart. Arriving at her destination, the air crackled with possibility. She could almost taste the change on her tongue. The meeting wasn't just about Brad, it was an opening act for what she intended to write in the next chapter of her life. Each footstep toward the coffee shop felt like an assertion of her newfound resolution. Maria arrived early and positioned herself at a corner table, sipping slowly on her coffee to steady her nerves. Every tick of the clock felt like an order from time itself: move forward, confront the past, and embrace the future. When she finally spotted Brad's familiar form approaching, the swarm of butterflies in her stomach morphed into a determined conviction. He'd always been emblematic of her entrapment, but today, she refused to be the same woman. As Brad sat down, she had to wrestle with a flood of emotions. Regret, resentment, and a strange sense of nostalgia all threatened to engulf her. The blue of his eyes, still sharp and intense, reminded her of a time when she felt small and controlled. But today's Maria was different. She had learned to navigate her own journey, and it was time to demonstrate that growth. "Thank you for meeting me," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath. "I wanted to talk about where we left things." At that moment, she felt a wave of calm wash over her. It wasn't merely about confronting Brad, it was a declaration of her own growth. The dialogue began to roll, loaded with insights and truth-telling, like brainstorming ideas for a project instead of revisiting bitter moments. As the conversation deepened, Maria realized that she held more cards than she initially thought. Brad's responses hinted at his own vulnerabilities, shedding light on the complexity of their shared past without escalation. Each exchange prompted reflections that peeled back layers of misunderstanding and assumptions. With every word spoken, unease transformed into discovery. It was a catalyst, one that revealed not just tensions but blurred expectations, leading to shared accountability. They began to transcend the narrative of their past, shaping a mature dialogue out of the wreckage of old grievances. Yet, beneath this growing clarity lay an unshakable tension, a question that lurked increasingly intolerant in the corners of her mind. What if this encounter would unravel something deeper than what had already emerged? What if, in pinning the past down for assessment, she dislodged complications that would further challenge her resolve? As they navigated through the nuances of their conversation, Maria's heart raced at the possibility that she was uncovering not just the truth about Brad but also confronting her perceptions of herself that had remained buried for far too long. The real challenge might just be awakening the sides of her she had yet to explore. Would the outcome be a reconciliation of sorts, a reforging of past ties, or could it spiral into uncertainties she had not factored in? What remained hidden beneath the dialogue, awaiting its moment to surface, threatened to shift everything she believed about her freshly defined identity. In that crucial moment, as the coffee shop buzzed around them, Maria braced herself for the emotional revelation that seemed inevitable. What might she discover next, and could the shadows of her past linger even longer than the conversation itself? Maria stood resolute, her heart racing with a mix of determination and serenity as she prepared to leave the cafe after her meeting with Brad. The conversation had unfolded not as a confrontation filled with bitterness but rather as an opportunity for closure. They had peeled back layers of misunderstanding, each revelation stripping away the weight of resentment that had weighed on her for so long. "Thank you for being honest," she had said to Brad at the end, her voice steady. "This dialogue was more than I expected. I see now that we both had our struggles." Their parting felt different, less tumultuous and more liberating. As she stepped out into the sunlight, Maria took a deep breath, feeling the warmth embrace her like a freeing air. The surrounding chatter dissolved into background noise. The heaviness she had carried didn't just lighten, it began to dissipate completely. Returning to Los Angeles, Maria felt transformed. The weight of self-doubt she had borne for so long had been exchanged for a burgeoning confidence. Each step felt lighter, each interaction charged with a newfound authority as she navigated life not just as a mother but as an empowered woman. In the days that followed her trip, her renewed energy reflected in her interactions with Ethan. She encouraged his explorations, guiding him through his imagination with fresh eyes. When he spoke excitedly about his projects, she fully engaged, captivating his wonder with stories not just of science but of perseverance and bravery, the very lessons she had only recently claimed for herself. At work, Maria approached her shifts with the same invigorated attitude. She initiated discussions with her coworkers, collaborating on initiatives that would enhance their work environment. Recognizing her voice was a profound step forward, she felt valuable and competent. Recognition followed. Her manager praised her proactive contributions, even recommending her for a team lead position. The ultimate cherry on top arrived unexpectedly as an email from Jason pinged on her phone. "Maria," it read, "I've been reflecting on our journey together. What we talked about has opened my eyes as well. I want to meet and discuss how we can support each other moving forward, both personally and professionally." Let me know when you're free. Reading his message, she experienced a rush of familiarity melded with anticipation. Maria had forged a path toward clarity, and the idea of reconnecting with Jason didn't ignite insecurity as before but instead created a space for dialogue, growth, and potential collaboration that was mutually empowering. After importantly mulling the implications for their future, Maria arranged to meet Jason at a park near her home. The day arrived, sunny and clear. As they meandered along the paths, they revisited their past, not with regret but with understanding. Jason's newfound respect for her growth was evident. He listened intently, his appreciation palpable. "I see the strength you've attained, Maria. I think we both have opportunities to redefine our narratives," he remarked, full of sincerity. A flicker of excitement ignited inside her. The man she had once viewed as an embodiment of her insecurities was now standing before her as an equal and ally in this journey of rediscovery and empowerment. With a soft smile, Maria replied, "It's incredible to acknowledge our past, but it's essential that we don't let it bind us. Let us focus on what we can create together." Their conversation ventured into shared ambitions. Collaboration fruited in ideas for community projects, supporting underprivileged youth in science and technology, a reflection of their individually reclaimed strengths. Through her trials, Maria didn't just achieve resolution surrounding her past, she conquered her self-doubt and emerged as a confident advocate for herself and her son. The road ahead, lined with partnerships and potential, pulsated with vitality. In reconnecting with Jason, she recognized that not only was judgment relative, it was her perspective, born of resilience and strength, that truly mattered. Maria now stood strong, having achieved an authentic transformation, ready to tackle challenges ahead without fear. She felt a profound sense of accomplishment, fittingly punctuated by the laughter of Ethan in her heart as she embraced her role as a mother and architect of her own future. And with every step she took into her future, she intricately wove her story, once marred in shadows, into a tapestry resplendent with light and possibility. This is your moment to embrace the journey of personal growth. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.